Whenever there's a new World of Warcraft expansion, it can always be super scary deciding what class to main throughout the expansion. So many questions would race through your head like, are they going to be good in arenas and battlegrounds? Are they going to be viable in a raiding environment? Are they difficult to level? Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the channel. My name is Sky, and today we're going to be breaking down the safest classes to pick overall in Wrath of the Lich King based almost entirely off of those questions. Kicking things off with number 1, the Paladin. If you have ever heard about the Paladin in Wrath of the Lich King, you should know exactly what I'm talking about. The Paladin has 3 specs with 3 different types of roles. You have Protection for tanking, Retribution for DPS, and Holy for healing. The most incredible thing about this class is that all 3 specs are phenomenal in all forms of content. They aren't just above average either. They are incredible. Protection Paladin being the number 1 tanking option for most fights in every phase, and having a ton of new ability additions that make them much more powerful, like new cleave abilities, party damage mitigation, and high mana regeneration abilities. All of their issues from previous iterations of World of Warcraft are gone, and they shoot up to the best spot as a tank. Holy Paladin, usually the best main tank healer, gets even more mana regeneration and chunky heals, as well as getting their new biggest addition, Beacon of Light, which allows them to heal 2 targets at the same time, duplicating any healing effects onto those 2. And finally, Retribution Paladin, usually somewhat of a meme when it comes to DPS, now becomes a justice-upholding lawbringer who deals massive AoE damage with their new cleave ability, Divine Storm, and a complete overhaul of their DPS rotation as a whole. For leveling, we only need to talk about this briefly because it's obvious how strong they are with the AoE potential they bring, as well as having the ability to fill every role with ease. On top of this, they're also once again stacked to the brim with party utility, making them fantastic to bring in a raiding environment, and you can really never have enough of them. The Paladin class as a whole is amazing come Wrath of the Lich King, with the ability to have all 3 types of class roles, and all of them being amazing and crucial to so many scenarios truly makes this class great. They are crucial to have in raids, dominate PvP with high burst damage as Retribution, and they have strong multi-target healing as Holy. And they even have a unique hybrid spec known as Preg for those sword and shield lovers, making them easily the safest option come Wrath of the Lich King. Moving on to number 2, the Mage. In World of Warcraft, Mage is always going to be a solid choice. One of the 3 specs is going to be amazing for PvP, and one of the 3 specs is going to be amazing for PvE. In Wrath of the Lich King, this formula definitely still applies. For PvP, your primary specialization is going to be Frost. Great crowd control, amazing burst damage, and defensives as well. Don't forget, in this expansion, they get the brand new ability, Deep Freeze, which is a stun effect that can allow you to deal insane damage with shatter combos and set up great bursts with arena partners as well. Moving to the other spectrum, PvE, Mage is great throughout the expansion as well, being particularly the strongest in the beginning and near the last phases. In TBC, Arcane Mage is nuts, and at the start of Wrath, that single target damage monster brings that same exact energy with how short the fights are in Naxxramas, making them S tier. Moving on from phase 1 begins the ascent of the Great Fire Mage spec, one of the greatest scaling specializations in the game. By phase 3 and onward, they easily overtake Arcane Mage with having over 50% critical strike, giving you the ability to toss out constant pyroblasts to deal massive damage and great AoE with Living Bomb and Flame Strikes. Mages are going to be great in any expansion, and even while leveling in Wrath of the Lich King, you're going to be super efficient on your solo farming potential. It may not be as powerful as Classic or TBC, but it's still very strong nonetheless to level 1. Mages are always wanted in every scenario: battlegrounds, arenas, open world PvP, dungeons, raids, you name it. There can never be enough massive damage spellcasters around. Now going to number 3, the Death Knight. The unstoppable undead juggernaut. The Death Knight is a fantastic choice for anyone interested in being a melee in Wrath of the Lich King for a ton of reasons. Unholy Death Knight being absolutely insane for PvP with fantastic survivability and great CC due to Desecration slowing everyone in an AoE, and they also bring massive damage by themselves, but they can also bring their super overpowered cooldown, Summon Gargoyle. This minion can literally kill players completely on its own with how much damage it deals. Moving on to PvE, Frost Death Knight is going to be your primary single target damage spec, while Unholy is fantastic for spread cleave DPS. Both are great and equally valuable in the raids due to the specialization specific buffs they bring, but these 2 specs dance between being S tier and A tier constantly throughout the expansion, so they will always bring great numbers and be wanted. Talking about Blood Death Knight, they are known for bringing massive threat generation with Icy Touch, to where you can watch Netflix while tanking certain bosses. It's that easy. On top of it all, they have fantastic defensive cooldowns that are on really short cooldowns as well, and it also helps that the learning curve isn't too difficult, so it should be easy to pick up. Having the ability to be very strong in both melee DPS and tanking with all 3 specializations is honestly just nuts. Don't forget that they can solo groups of mobs very easily and even kill tons of elites on their own for some nasty XP per hour. The Death Knight is no slouch in Wrath and shouldn't be taken lightly. With great group utility, high damage as well as great tanking ability, it's no doubt that they make the list as being one of the safest classes in WoW. Moving along to number 4, the Druid. The literal Swiss Army knife of World of Warcraft. The jack of all trades, but the master of none. Well, not necessarily. Starting off with Feral Druid DPS having a bit of a slow start in Phase 1 due to lacking specific stats and set bonuses, afterward they are near the top DPS due to no one really being able to keep up with them on their AoE in Phase 2 and armor penetration gear in Phase 4. So, they bring great damage. Is that it? Not at all. They also bring the ability to swap to bear tank and off tank at ease, giving them the opportunity of having by far the biggest health pool in the entire game, hitting numbers you never even knew were possible. They lack a bit of threat regeneration compared to Death Knight, but are an amazing main tank to have in a raid slot. Restoration is a phenomenal option for Druid as well, being the kings of healing over time, putting out crazy healing parses with the new ability Wild Growth. They also bring fantastic utility with the Tree of Life buff, as well as having the only combat res in the game, making them super valuable. Boomkin may struggle in PvE compared to the other strong casters, but they are great in PvP with certain arena comps, and are specifically very powerful in battlegrounds with the amount of spread pressure they can bring. Overall, the best spec for PvP is going to be either Restoration and Feral Druid though. The Restoration Druid is the best spec for healing on the move and having insane mobility, as well as having the advantage to be in stealth at the start of a game, to even get greater positioning, while Feral Druid is amazing as well for having great mobility and high burst damage with hitting massive ferocious bites and having instant cyclones for CC pressure as well. Overall, the Druid is an amazing choice in Wrath of the Lich King due to their versatility and dual spec coming into the game, makes them even stronger overall. And finally, our last wild card, number 5, the Rogue. I know, it seems like a crazy choice, but you gotta hear me out on this one. It's very important to note that all 3 specs are viable and excel well in at least one form of content, whether it be PvE or PvP. Starting things off with PvE, Assassination is amazing early on due to the lack of needing of armor penetration, with most of their damage coming from their poisons and envenom, bypassing armor, so Phase 1 they are a great option. But from there, Combat Rogue and Raids is just going to outscale them due to the acquiring of pieces from tier sets and armor penetration pushing them straight to the top most of the time. In Phase 2 and Phase 4 specifically, Rogue just becomes almost untouchable with the amount of raw DPS it can bring and strong cleave with fan and knives as well. Rogues bring a unique dynamic to almost any PvP scenario with incredibly strong hit and run playstyle, high burst, and the ability to easily reset fights with Vanish. The Subtlety Rogue surprisingly gets even stronger in PvP in Wrath of the Lich King, with the addition to having a few new incredible skills like Dismantle and their very powerful new cooldown, Shadow Dance. If you're looking for insane burst and control, Subtlety Rogue is the first person you call. The Rogue overall is just an insane damage dealer in PvE and scales tremendously throughout the expansion, while in PvP, Subtlety is incredibly strong with Shadow Dance and even those crazy one-shots from Killing Spree with the combat spec. Wrath of the Lich King is going to be a great opportunity for you to decide whether you want to have a new main or not. And today, we just wanted to bring you some classes that we consider safe when it comes to both PvE and PvP. We aren't saying that these classes are the only classes, we just wanted to try and guide you in the right direction with these ones in particular. Wrath Classic is just a few weeks away, and we here at the Comeback Kids are super excited to be playing with you all very soon. If you're interested in joining us and storming the beaches of Northrend come launch day, please be sure to like and subscribe for more information. I want to thank you all so much for watching this video. My name's Sky from the Comeback Kids. I'll see you all in the next one. Hey!